In Pit Lane, proudly brought to you by Online Invent, websites, digital marketing and custom software. Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of In Pit Lane, coming to you from the In Pit Lane corporate headquarters here beyond the suburban curtain. Well, if you're like me and you grew up loving motorsport in Melbourne, you've spent a lot of your years out at Calder Park. Well, over the past few years, of course, things have been pretty quiet at Calder Park. There's been lots of rumours, lots of innuendo, lots of stories going around about what, if anything, was the future of the centre of Australian motorsport. Well, tonight on the program we're going to find out. Last Friday I went out to the drive event track day out at Calder Park, and while I was out there I caught up with the man who's been put in charge of reviving Calder Park and getting it back in action again. That's well-known local motor racing identity and former sports sedan driver Rowan Harmon, and you'll get it tonight direct from the source. What's happening with circuit racing, what's happening out at the track, what's happening with its future, drag racing, yes, perhaps even the Thunderdome. So that's coming up in just a moment. Also, lots of things happening over the weekend. We went to the motorcycles, we went to the Speedway Expo. You'll find out all about that as we bring you the latest in local, national and international motorsport on the In Pit Lane Motorsport News. The Northern Territory coroner has found that spectator safety measures at the annual Finke Desert Race were entirely inadequate after a man died when he was hit by a competitor's vehicle. Spectator Nigel Harris was found to have died due to multiple blunt force injuries after he was run over by a vehicle competing in the race, which had veered off course as a result of mechanical failure. Northern Territory coroner Elizabeth Armitage concluded that while some measures and procedures were in place, they were entirely inadequate to address the known significant risks to spectators posed by the race. Furthermore, Motorsport Australia, which sanctions the car section of the race, and the Finke Desert Race Incorporated, the group which promotes the event, failed to satisfactorily manage the identified risks to the safety of spectators from at least September 2018. She recommended that relevant Northern Territory government approvals only be granted if adequate additional safety measures have been implemented, and that a comprehensive spectator management plan be provided to the government. Motorsport Australia's senior counsel Bruce Hodgkinson conceded in his closing submissions that it's accepted that more action should have been taken by Motorsport Australia to address concerns which had been raised about spectator safety from 2018. Finke organisers announced back on May 24th that Motorsport Australia had in fact granted a permit for this year's event and committed to enhanced safety measures. However, at the time of recording, that permit, we believe, has still not been issued. The 2023 Finke Desert Race is in fact scheduled to take place this weekend. Well, locally, the focus of the Victorian racing scene has moved on to two wheels as the Victorian Road Racing Championships kicked off at the State Motorcycle Centre at Broadford. The weather was fine, there was plenty of variety, some great racing, and a touch of high drama along the way. Saturday at Broadford was cold and wet, but come Sunday, and the weather god smiled on the opening round of the Victorian Road Racing Championships at the State Motorcycle Centre at Broadford. I haven't seen sidecars in years, and although the field was small, it was great fun to see the outfits in action again. Patrick Clancy and Steve Bonney were comfortable winners of their single race on Sunday. It was a close tussle in the juniors, with Jackson McDonald on the Honda 80 just holding out Ethan Johnson's Yamaha R15. Oscar Lewis was third. Another close battle to the flag in Supersport 300. Luke Johnson on the R3 Yamaha narrowly won both races from Steve Svorzen and Ryan Larkin, swapping places on the podium in each race. The 600 Supersports races saw victories to Harley Side and Brendan Wilson. Recent guest on In Pit Lane, Tim Large, made a perfect debut in Superbikes, winning all three races. Chandler Cooper lost his Honda at turn 1, thankfully without injury, but the day's biggest incident saw the red flag come out after this scary crash on the back straight involving the Yamaha R1 of Lee Ramstein. Ramstein's bike flipped over just off the brow of the hill, sending the rider on a wild high-speed slide. He managed to scramble clear and was taken to hospital, bruised, battered, but thankfully without any life-threatening injuries or broken bones. The final of the Roaring Sporty saw William Downey win the Battle of the Harleys from Sam Lucidi. Scott McIntosh came off his bike without injury in the final race for Limited Sports and Bears. The race was won by Philip Batouche aboard a Ducati. The meeting had something for everyone, and the day closed out with 2 supermoto races. Think rallycross for bikes. Josh McLean on board a Husqvarna 450 won both races. The next round of the Victorian Road Racing Championships will take place across the South Australian border with the visit to the Bent Motorsport Park on the 7th to the 9th of July. With winter sweeping across the southern states of Australia, speedway racing, much like us here at In Pit Lane, has gone into hibernation. But the faithful emerged from their caves in large numbers last Saturday at the Melbourne Showgrounds for the 2023 Speedway Expo. The 2022 event was so successful that it had to be moved to a much larger venue, and judging by the reaction to this year's event, that'll probably be the case again next year. The Speedway Expo bumped into the Melbourne Showgrounds last Saturday, and judging by the number of exhibitors and the steady stream of fans through the door, it was a great success. The Expo brought together race service providers, different categories and local tracks, and showed just how diverse and strong the sport is. Speedway Australia's CEO Darren Tyndall said the event was a resounding success and it'll only get bigger.
Speedway Australia is the governing body trying to bring the sport together. So we have over 60 exhibitors here today. We have 11 of our national classes here, and then we've got all the part supplies, tyre supplies, sticker supplies. It is really, really full. We've had well over 1,000 people come through the door today. Last year we were in a space at about 1,500 square metres. This year we've had to go to 3,000 square metres, and we're still turning vendors away. So next year in Melbourne, 3rd of June, bigger, better, and we're looking to go to 5,000 square metres or bigger.
Speedway might not have the mainstream media exposure of things like supercars or Formula One, but the sport's hugely popular, especially in regional areas, and it makes a major contribution to the national and local economy.
So we have 270 clubs, 97 venues we race at. We do nearly 1,000 events a year. We do about 40,000 licences a year. We have about 16,000 competitors consistently racing over the weekends. So Speedway in Australia is a $2.1 billion industry into the Australian economy. Take somewhere like Warrnambool Speedway, so they run the Classic every year. Last year it injected $7.2 million into the Warrnambool economy. The same with Darwin, they run chariots every single year. Last year $11.1 million into the Darwin economy over 2 weekends.
The Expo also saw the promotion of a new project to attract more young people to the sport. It's called Kids to Grids.
Kids to Grids is a great experience where Speedway Australia has been building. So we have a junior car and 2 junior go-karts. And what will happen is the kids will have the opportunity to come out to a racetrack and actually drive the race car. So they will be full fireproof underwear, full driving suit, helmet, balaclava, glove, the whole experience, and they'll be able to jump in one of these cars here and actually go around the track and experience what it's like to drive a speedway car or a speedway kart.
While the local season's now over down south, Speedway never ends, with plenty of action still happening further north.
So our season is just coming to a close in the southern part of the country, and the northern part of our country will start to run their winter series.
You're watching In Pit Lane, the winter solstice here on C31 Melbourne and on demand with bonus content on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel. We'll have more news later, but when we return, we're going to take you out to Calder Park and try and find out just what the hell is happening out there. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Get the phone ringing for your business with website development and SEO services from Online Invent. Visit onlineinvent.com.au.
And once again, we have to say a huge thank you to our good friends at Online Invent, whose support has been vital in keeping In Pit Lane on the air in 2023. Online Event is a Melbourne-based company specialising in online marketing, SEO, web page and software application design. Online Invent has a strong community focus, and its owner, Roy Ellery, has a huge passion for motorsport. The man is a motorsport tragic, absolutely besotted with the sport, really great supporter of the sport. Online Invent believe that every business, car club, race team or event promoter has a story to tell, and their team of experts will work with you to create a custom internet marketing plan that will help you reach your target audience and achieve your business goals and improve your profile. Online Invent offer a wide range of services, including search engine optimization, SEO, social media marketing strategy and planning, website design, and software and app development. So, if you're involved in any sport, you know that the secret of success is putting your faith in experience and expertise. So, if you're looking for a team of experts who can help you take your business to the next level online, then contact our friends at Online Invent. You can learn more about them at onlineinvent.com.au. And once again, we'd like to thank Online Invent for their support of In Pit Lane, RMITV student television, and local community media. Welcome back to In Pit Lane. Well, it was once the self-proclaimed centre of Australian motorsport. Calder Park was the site of the Australian Grand Prix, the Australian Drag Racing Nationals, and of course the first place outside of the United States to have NASCAR-style super speedway racing. It also played host to rallycross, rock concerts, even quarter horse racing. But over the past few years, Calder Park has certainly fallen into a state of disrepair. However, all that is about to change. Last Friday, Melbourne company Drive Events held the first of what will be a regular series of Friday test days at the circuit, and that's just the start of a major revival plan for the venue in future. Former sports sedan driver and well-known local motorsport identity Rowan Harmon has been given the task of getting Calder Park back on its feet and running again as a major centre of local motorsport. But I started our chat by asking him about his memories of racing at Calder Park.
January 1974 I got my, what was then Cam's licence here, in a Mini Cooper of all things. So there were bumps in the back straight then too.
So how has the place changed over the years? You've been on the short circuit then?
It's kicked off with the short circuit, and then in the 80s, whilst the Thunderdome was being built, the extension went in where you come up over Bob's Hill. And from there, the layout's pretty much as it was all the way up to very early 2000s, where the last supercar rounds were held here. And from around that time, the venue went into a bit of a hiatus for one reason or another. And then middle of last year, Rod and Kim Jane had obviously been thinking about it for a long time and decided to put the wheels in motion. So I've joined the team out here to get Calder Park Raceway back on a solid footing and running motor race meetings again, and all other forms of motorsport with the drag racing, the drift, etc.
Okay, well, what are we doing out here today? We've got the Drive Events guys out here today for a test. I mean, testing out here, particularly on a Wednesday, used to be like a tradition in Victoria. I mean, can you see that sort of thing coming back on a regular basis?
That is certainly coming back. Today through Andrew McSwain and Drive Events. Last week we got our Category 3 or C track licence to allow test and tune track days, sprints and private practice. So working towards that date with Andrew, he runs similar drive day events at other venues. It has run a couple of events out here in the last 6 months. So I'm more than happy for Andrew to kick off with the first track day here on the Friday. The Wednesday practice days will be coming back. We've got some information out to organisers of that, and hopefully by the end of June, early July, we'll have the Wednesday practice days back as a fixture, and then Andrew's track days, they'll probably be every other Friday as well, and they'll tend to alternate with during the winter months. The drags are on the weekends as opposed to the Friday nights. So it'll be street drags or roll racing one week and then the track day the next on the Fridays. But yeah, we're open for business for practice and sprints and all other forms of motorsport at the moment.
So we've seen out on the back part of the circuit, you're coming off of the top of Bob's Hill and down into the S's. So there's been some modifications. What modifications have been made so far, and what modifications do you need to make further to say bring it back up to the possibility of running, say, a Motorsport Australia state round here at the end of the year, which I know they've got sort of tentatively planned.
Penciled in for October. Our first open race meeting is the Victorian Motor Race Championships in August through AASA. We've got the major issue out here was the runoff on turn 6 or the end of the back straight. What had happened there was over the years the viewing mount had been moved in and it shortened up the runoff area. So we've excavated out an additional 20 metres of runoff there, reconstituted the gravel trap and doubling the size of that also with a 1 in 20 incline, so a bit like a truck arrestor ramp. The reason for that is for the runoff areas that terminal speed or vehicle terminal speed on the back straight is quite high because the flip-flop, so when you come off Bob's Hill down through what they call the flip-flop 4-5, it's always been single lane anyway, but it's pretty well flat. Yeah. Kiss the curbs, through you go, which is added to the vehicle speed at the end of the back straight. So with Motorsport Australia, we determined that the runoff area that we've now put in is okay for what was the old circuit, so call it Repco. So what we've done is we did some testing where we've replicated the exit speed of the old Repco to an exit speed of the flip-flop. So really what we've done is just closed up the flip-flop, so it's now more of a corner or a chicane. And at the moment that's with tyre bundles, and in time we'll actually end up with a double curb in a turn 6. And this has just knocked that 15-20k off the terminal speed at the end of the back straight. The other earthworks there tend to be cosmetic, but also structural for drainage, etc. And so we can maintain the grass levels and that sort of thing. So both beautification and also structural.
You mentioned drag racing before. I mean, this was the home of the Australian Nationals for many, many years, huge crowds coming out here, but you also mentioned the fact that we were talking about off-street meetings and roll racing and things like that. At the moment, sort of the problem is the track preparation. Are we ever going to see full-scale Group 1 drag racing back here again as we used to in the old days, top fuel and that sort of thing?
The drag strip as it is what they call a non-prep strip. So the only track compound that's laid down is the first 200 feet, and this is part of the drag strip that finishes prior to where the national circuit joins, or turn 10. So as a non-prep strip, it's basically for street cars, so that your top fuel, top alcohol, all of those categories aren't able to run on it. But at least twice a year, we are planning to have major drag race meetings here. There will be compound put down for those meetings, but we allow in the scheduling to give us the 3 to 4 days for the full track clean-up, so there'll be no track compound or preparation on at the moment. The drag strip was relayed just prior to COVID, actually, in 2020, and the part of that reconstruction was to extend the concrete launch area for the drag cars. That does cover off into the exit of 10. So this being the first time it's got any real serious usage for some time, as a road race circuit, we are waiting to put the rubber down there. So it's a little bit slippery at the moment, but it's not a track compound. It's the fact that it is a concrete surface. As that rubber's in, it'll be just fine.
But when you look at the sort of crowds that you get with the drag racing, I mean, even for off-street events, there are very big crowds coming in. It seems to be confusing for a lot of drag racing fans in terms of why the focus seems to be on getting the road racing in the circuit, where you're going to get crowds. If you get 1,500, 2,000 people, you'd be very happy about that. Whereas you've got this event that could get sort of 15,000, 20,000 people. So was there any consideration given to sort of just basically turning it into a drag strip?
To leave it just as a drag strip, the numbers don't stack up. It's also a very weather dependent sport, so all the good planning in the world, it can be called off because there's a rain shower. And it's a multi-use venue. Look, in future years there may be a realignment of the road race track to say bring back the old glowweave, which is now high-tech oils, to bring back that corner, which would be a little bit more of a realignment around the turn 7, 8, 9 complex, and then bring the main straight onto what is currently the pit lane or the drag staging lanes. But that is pretty much in the future. Yes, it would be ideal to have a standalone drag strip, but the situation is the drags would use it once every 2 weeks. As a road race circuit, it could be used every day.
Tim, well, welcome back to Calder Park. You're not out on the track there, but what are your earliest memories of this place? I mean, you'd have some pretty early memories.
Well, it's the first place I ever drove a race car, so it's like a bit of a time warp really being back here. It hasn't changed at all. Obviously, they're tidying up the place a little bit, which is great, and the place is actually looking really good. It was always a good track for testing, and it's great because it's proximity to Melbourne. So, you know, we're just down here running some cars in that we've rebuilt and, yeah, just enjoying the place. It's good.
So what are your earliest memories here? I mean, even before you were racing, I mean, of course, your father would be racing here, you know, going back to the very early days of Calder Park. So, you know, what's your earliest memory of here?
Well, I remember roughly being here in the 80s and sort of sitting on Dad's lap as we drove around the pits here. And then from my racing, like me and Dad came down here, like the first car I ever drove was a Formula 3 car, believe it or not, and it was here. And then we had our Formula Ford. And we drove that here as well before we went up to Winton and Phillip Island. So it's always a really good place to sort of learn how to drive the car and get your head around things before you went to some of the really full-on tracks.
So how important do you think it is to try and get the place up and running again?
Well, it is, isn't it? Like, it's up and running. The track's pretty good. They've redone the main straight, so there's no VHT there anymore, which is great, so we can run here in the wet. So, I mean, it's already up and running. They'll keep tidying the place up slowly as it goes, and it'll get it up to standard, and there's no reason why we can't be racing here before the end of the year.
Now you're out here with a couple of radicals today. You're not behind the wheel. What's your job here today?
Team manager today, so just keeping everything going. I've got my mechanics here who do a great job, but I'm just here overseeing, I suppose.
So no sort of feelings inside to sort of just jump behind the wheel never for old time's sake?
I might have a drive later. I got my helmet here, so we'll see how we go. But the plan was for me to do a couple of laps, so we'll see if we do one later this Arvo.
And what about, you've also just recently, I mean, we've had Formula Open. That's something that sort of started out very slowly and very small and seems to be gathering a lot of pace. Tell us about what is Formula Open?
Well, it's basically a direct replacement for what was the Australian Formula 3 Championship. But what we've included is Formula 4 cars, Toyota Racing Series cars, and a class structure. So the first class is F3 and then down from there. But it's been really good this year. You know, we've had fields of 22, 27 at the first 2 rounds. We're going to the Bend next week where we've got 16 cars, and that's our first sort of flyway event, I suppose, out of New South Wales and Victoria. And it'll just grow. By the end of the year, Phillip Island will have 30 cars on the grid like we did last year. So it's been really good. We've got some good young kids coming through. We're providing a pathway, so we're really excited about the category.
Speaking of a pathway, I mean, the pathway out of Formula 4 and Formula 3 in terms of open wheelers locally could be S5000, but that seems to be at the moment a bit of a dead end thanks to Supercars Australia. We've got, the very well credentialed Joey Mawson who isn't allowed to get a drive in there. What do you think of the situation where you basically cut off if you don't drive sort of Super 2, you're not getting a drive of a supercar?
Well, quite frankly, it's a joke. You know, the S5000 is probably the most difficult car you'll ever drive. I can't do Bathurst. Like, I've got 20 years worth of motorsport experience. Over the years, I've only done 4 rounds of Super 2, so theoretically, I can't drive. So, I've won races, Joey's won races. Like, the guy has been up the front in European racing. Like, people used to come out of Formula Ford. My brother came out of Formula Ford straight into supercars and did a perfectly good job. So they're just trying to keep it closed. I don't understand. It's actually quite annoying, to be really honest, because there's so many good categories around Australia and they're suffering because it's not a pathway to anything. So they really need to sort it out, because if you can drive an S5000, you can drive anything in the world, in my opinion.
Okay, well, hopefully we'll get out and perhaps one day for old time's sake, what about an S5000 around this place?
It'd be pretty interesting, actually. It'd be fast going down into turn 1. So, yeah, you never know. The car's still sitting there, so I might have to hop in and give it a crack.
Well, Nash, tell us about, first of all, tell us about your memories of Calder Park.
Oh my goodness, probably go back to the 90s and look, hence this livery. I mean, the 90s were just a great era of motorsport, and this place just proved it. You know, it had the Thunderdome, it had the drag racing, there was always something going on. I mean, yeah, a lot of fond memories of this place. Yeah, fantastic. HQ racing, you know, and yeah, great days.
So what's it like being out there again? Have you had a bit of a look around today, and what's it like out there?
Look, it actually brought back a lot of memories. I mean, we come here a few months ago with Andy with the when we did the Thunderdome on the racetrack. I didn't get to do any driving really. My son had a drive, but to just do the circuit today, unbelievable, fantastic. Like it's tight, it keeps you on your toes. The bumps are there. It's exciting. To get on that main straight, I think if there is some racing here, it's going to create some great racing come turn one. It's all about getting that exit out onto the drag strip. So yeah, fantastic, great day.
So from your point of view, how far is it away from being ready to race on?
Well, I'd race on it today, to be honest. Look, it's got the character with the bumps and whatever else, but that's a motor racing track as far as I'm concerned. It's got to have the character, and it makes you be a little bit more alert. But no, I think providing they just go through the systems that they've got to do to get to the next level in their licence, then I'll be racing here tomorrow for sure.
How important is it for Victorian racing to keep Calder Park operating?
Oh, look, I think they've probably done a great job over the years with their drag racing. They've kept kids off the street. I'm a big advocate for that. They've been great, in doing that. But it is very important because, we're nearly at the time where Sandown's going to be closing down, which is a shame. We all love Sandown as well, but this is on the western suburbs. We don't really have anything over this side of town. It's important to the kids and all the future generations coming up because the facility's here. It's just got to be coat of paint and let's go.
They've scheduled in a round of the Victorian State Championship. We've got a double ASA Victorian Motor Racing Championship round that is certainly going to happen.
Yeah.
How much are you looking forward to getting back here with the state round, and are you confident that that's going to happen?
Yes, I do. Look, I think it'll be great, considering that we are in a position where Sandown is getting to its end of its life. So we need some options, and the track's here. So why not utilise it? I think, the Janes and obviously, the people involved in here are keeping it all alive. But yeah, maybe a little bit more push and a little bit more support, and it'll all happen. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the round if it all happens. Yeah.
So what do you go back and tell the other saloon car guys who are not here this weekend today to come out next time there's a test day here, and when they have the opportunity to race here hopefully later in the year, what are you going to say to them?
Oh, look, I think they're mad for missing out on today. Like you got track time here. If we do race here, well, anyone that comes out right now will get some insight to the track and obviously get some lap times and get some data and work out where you're going with it all. But yeah, I suggest anyone that's got a saloon car sitting at home or motorsport in general, head on down. You can basically run anything here, so head on down every second Friday.
Okay, well, Nash, thanks for your memories, and thanks for doing this in Pit Lane.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Okay, Trevor, can you first of all tell us about the car you're driving here today at Calder?
It's a historic touring car. It's a 1967 Camaro. It's got a 350. A lot of the standard sort of stuff, just disc brake front end, drum rear end, and that's about it.
How did you end up with this car? What's its history?
A guy at Taranto actually built it, and he sold it, so I bought it. I used to run the Tirana, so I thought I'll have a change, and I don't know if I've done the right thing or not. It's a bit more expensive, but it's okay. It's fun, sounds good, looks good.
So we're out here at Calder Park again. What are your memories of Calder Park? What are your earliest memories?
It's usually a bit colder than this, to tell you the truth, and I remember coming onto the main straight. It's very slippery and things haven't changed, and it's a good place. It's easy to get to. It takes us an hour and a bit from home, and it's just a good place to be. It's good to be open again.
Yeah, but now that you talked about how slippery it was, I mean, one of the reasons you've been out there today is testing new tyres on the. Tell us about the new tyres and how they come to be involved with Group N racing.
All the bigger cars usually run the Hoosiers, and they're really expensive, and Nankang, they've been making so many different tyres now, and they've made some to suit us. We've got to have 60 series, and we've tried them today. They're half the price and they seem okay. So Yep, we're pretty happy with them. I don't know how they'll compare with times because it's a bit hard to get times here with the track being all greasy, but they feel okay.
What about the opportunity of running later in the year at a state round here? Are you looking forward to that?
Yes, it'll be good. Yep, yeah, it should be good. Like I say, it's close and a good bunch of guys here. So.
What about the track itself? What are the conditions like out there?
It's not bad. I don't think it's much different from last time I was here, to be honest. I think it's good. Yeah, nothing's changed. So yeah, it's all good.
So if people are saying, like, if they're worried at all about the safety standards or the quality?
It's all fine. They've got the ambulance here, they've got all the safety guys, and yeah, it's good. So it looks like it's under control. So get the local guys to support it and they'll stay open, I suppose.
How important is it to local motorsport to have a venue like Calder? I mean, we know that down the track they're talking about a new venue at Avalon, but
yep.
I mean, that's at minimum...
Yeah.
They're saying 3 to 4 years away. I'd be very surprised if that.
Yeah.
So how important is to keep this, especially in light of Sandown?
Yep. It's good. But like I say, the other way, when we go testing, we've got to go all the way to Winton, which is 3 hours, 3.5 there, 3.5 back. There's a day in travel, and here I'll be home by 3 o'clock, and it's easy. It's an easy day. So.
Well, if we wind this interview up and we both head off now, we might make home by 3 o'clock and beat that traffic.
I hope so.
Trevor, thanks a lot for joining
okay.
us. Good luck for the rest of the year with the Camaro, and thanks for joining us in Pit Lane.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome back to In Pit Lane. Well, Ferrari, of course, have set the early pace for this weekend's 100th anniversary running of the world's greatest race, the Le Mans 24 Hours. The number 51 car, driven by Antonio Giovinazzi, recorded the fastest time of the day with a 3:29.504. Lawrence Vanthoor secured the second fastest time in the number 6 Penske Porsche 963, trailing Giovinazzi by a small margin. Red-hot pre-race favourites Toyota Gazoo Racing faced a major setback after Mike Conway crashed the number 7 Toyota at Tete Rouge during the morning test. However, the team managed to repair the car in only 2 hours, allowing Kamui Kobayashi to set the third fastest time after completing 39 incident-free laps. Felipe Nasser, after spending a considerable time in the garage, managed to claim the 5th fastest time in the number 75 Porsche, just ahead of Frederick Makovecki, also in a Porsche. Paul di Resta drove Peugeot's revolutionary wingless wonder to the 7th fastest time of the day. In fact, the top 7 hypercars were covered by less than 1 second at the end of the weekend. It was a good test for Ferrari, with their cars also dominating GT-EAM, with the JMW Motorsport Ferrari 488 posting fastest time with Thomas Neubauer at the wheel. Ferraris took the first 3 places. The 100th anniversary Le Mans 24 Hours will take place at midnight Australian Eastern Time this Saturday night. The race can be seen locally via Stan Sport and via the WEC app. You can listen to radio commentary for free, including Australia's own Richard Crail, on Radio Le Mans and the Radio Show Limited website. In other international news, the IndyCar crews had no time to relax after the month of May with a trip to Detroit for the Detroit Grand Prix on a brand new downtown circuit. And it's that story that kicks off this week's In Pit Lane International Wrap. Alex Palou has won an incident-packed Detroit Grand Prix as the race returned downtown after running for over a decade on the Belle Isle circuit. There was no shortage of incidents in the race, and there was surprisingly good racing on the short and bumpy street circuit. Scott Dixon put a move on fellow Kiwi Scott McLaughlin in an early battle for the top 5. Pato O'Ward's run of outs continued after hitting the wall, ending his race prematurely. Moments later, Graham Rahals faced a similar fate as he crashed out after colliding with Benjamin Peterson. The battle of the race was between Felix Rosenqvist and Alexander Rossi, the pair making contact, but that only seemed to fire Rossi up, as undeterred by the incident, he made a pass on Indy 500 winner Joseph Newgarden. Romain Grosjean was once again fast but fragile and in the wars again, finishing yet another race up against the concrete. Rosenqvist and Rossi came together again, with Rossi hitting the wall but still able to carry on. Up front, Palou managed to hold off a late race challenge by Australia's Will Power, who finished second 1.18 seconds in arrears. Felix Rosenqvist was third, ahead of Scott Dixon, Alexander Rossi and Scott McLaughlin. A massive accident prematurely ended the third round of the Super GT series at Suzuka last weekend. Shugo Matsuda in his Nissan GT500 collided heavily with the barriers at the exit of Suzuka's fast 130R left-hander after contact with the GT300 Lamborghini of Kazuki Matsura. Fortunately, both drivers emerged from the accident unharmed. At the time of the red flag, the number 3 Nissan of Katsuma Chio and Matsunori Takaboshi were leading, and both were provisionally declared the winners. However, 10 teams immediately protested that the Nissan hadn't completed all of its mandatory pit stops. After a hearing, Super GT officials revised the results, promoting the WED Sports Toyota GR Supra of Yuji Kunamoto and Sena Sakaguchi to the top spot. The Nissan team have announced its intention to appeal that decision. Amidst all the confusion surrounding the GT500 winner, Team Studi claimed victory in the GT300 class with their BMW M4 GT3, driven by Seiji and Masataka Yanagida. Kyle Busch has led home Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano to pick up his third win of the NASCAR Cup Series season. Despite a race distance of only 300 miles, a dangerous lightning alert just after 5 laps halted the action early, keeping racers off the track for more than an hour and a half. When action resumed, Busch took the early lead, but was facing serious competition from Ryan Blaney, William Byron and Tyler Reddick. Ultimately, the race was won and lost under the 11th and final caution of the day after a brake rotor on Bubba Wallace's car had burned out, pushing the race into overtime. Busch held on to take the win, the 63rd of his NASCAR career. Jules Gounon, Timur Boguslavski and Rafael Marciello have won the Paul Ricard 1000, rekindling their title defence in the GT World Challenge Europe Endurance Cup. After their retirement at the season opener in Monza, the number 88 Mercedes-AMG displayed a polished performance during the 6-hour contest on Saturday evening, with Marciello in particular delivering an outstanding double stint. Marciello made a late race charge from 4th place to take the lead in the penultimate hour of the race. He then extended that gap to a 9.8 second victory at the checkered flag. Mercedes-AMG celebrated a 1-2 result at the race with Maro Engel, Fabian Schiller and Luca Stoltz finishing in 2nd place for Get Speed performance. The Rover Racing BMW trio of Nick Yelloy, Marco Wittmann and Philip Eng claimed the 3rd spot on the podium after benefiting from a penalty imposed on the Sanderlock junior team. And in another painfully dreary and totally predictable Formula 1 Grand Prix, Max Verstappen yet again dominated to take victory at the 2023 Spanish Grand Prix. Leading the race from pole position, the Dutchman took the checkered flag for the 5th time this season as his World Drivers' Championship title defence continued in style. Verstappen was briefly put under pressure by Carlos Sainz, who nearly took the lead at the opening corner of the race. But after fighting off that challenge, Verstappen was never in danger for the rest of the race. Lewis Hamilton came home 2nd around a track where he's previously won 6 times, the joint most in history, while his teammate George Russell rounded out the podium with a fantastic recovery drive from position 12 on the grid. And that's all we have time for this week on In Pit Lane. Next week on the program, we'll bring you all the news from the Le Mans 24-hour race. Of course, we have the lead up to the big Darwin Triple Crown event with supercars, the Australian Superbikes, and of course the final of the Australian Top Fuel Championships happening up at Hidden Valley. Also, we'll have the latest news regarding the Finke Desert Race as well. That's next week here on In Pit Lane. But until then, thanks for joining us once again. Really appreciate your support. And until we see you next week at the same time, from all of us here at In Pit Lane, thanks for joining us. Bye for now. In Pit Lane, proudly brought to you by Online Invent, websites, digital marketing and custom software.